A small, almost overlooked truck just triggered a reaction that most people didn't even notice at first. But behind the scenes, some of the biggest players in the trucking world are already paying attention, because this isn't just another vehicle launch. This might be the kind of quiet shift that slowly changes how an entire industry thinks about money, fuel, and survival. At first glance, the 2026 Mitsubishi Fuso Canter doesn't look revolutionary. It doesn't scream innovation. It doesn't try to impress with flashy design or futuristic styling. But that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Because everything that matters about this truck is hidden beneath the surface. And once you start to understand what Mitsubishi has actually done here, you begin to realize why this simple-looking machine is creating so much discussion. But to really see why this matters, you have to go back to where the Canter story began. This isn't some brand new experiment. The Canter has been around since the 1960s, and over decades, it quietly built one of the strongest reputations in the commercial vehicle world. Not because it was the most powerful, not because it was the most advanced, but because it worked day after day, load after load, year after year. It became the kind of truck small businesses trusted without question, the kind of machine that didn't just move goods, it kept businesses alive. And that reputation didn't stay limited to Japan. The Canter spread across Asia, Europe, Australia, and beyond. It became a backbone for small and medium transport companies, a truck that could handle big jobs without being big itself. And over time, something interesting happened. The Canter stopped being just a product and became a standard. So when Mitsubishi decides to update something like that, people don't just pay attention. They watch closely. Because if a company touches something this trusted, it usually means one of two things. Either they're taking a risk, or they've figured something out. And this time, it looks like they may have figured something out. The 2026 Canter arrives at one of the most uncertain moments in the trucking industry. Everywhere you look, there's pressure to go electric. Governments are pushing EV adoption. Companies are investing billions into electric trucks, and many experts are convinced that diesel is on its way out. So when Mitsubishi shows up with a new diesel truck instead of going all in on electric, it raises a serious question. Why? Why double down on diesel, right when the world is trying to move away from it? The answer starts with something surprisingly simple: fuel efficiency. This new Canter reportedly performs over 5% better than Japan's already strict fuel efficiency standards. And some versions go even further. Now, on paper, 5% might not sound like much. But in the trucking world, that number is everything. Because trucking isn't about short trips. It's not about occasional use. These vehicles are on the road constantly, hundreds of kilometers every single day. And when that kind of distance is involved, even the smallest improvement starts to multiply over weeks, over months, over the years. What looks like a small gain turns into something massive. And that's exactly what transport companies are starting to notice. Because for them, this isn't about technology. It's about survival. Fuel is one of the biggest expenses in the entire trucking business. And when margins are tight, even a slight reduction in fuel consumption can completely change the numbers. Which is why the moment this truck was announced, companies started paying attention. But here's where things get more interesting. That efficiency isn't coming from just one feature. It's coming from a combination of engineering decisions that work together in a way most people don't immediately notice. At the center of it all is the 4P10 Plus turbo diesel engine. Now, if you just look at the specs, it doesn't seem groundbreaking. It's a 4-cylinder engine, something we've seen before. But the real story is in how it works. Instead of letting exhaust gases go to waste, the turbocharger captures that energy and uses it to push more air into the engine. More air means better combustion. Better combustion means more power from the same amount of fuel. And that's where things start to shift. Because suddenly, the engine isn't just burning fuel. It's using it more intelligently. Then there's the fuel injection system. Modern common rail technology allows the engine to deliver fuel with extreme precision. Not too much, not too little, just exactly what's needed at every moment. This eliminates waste. And when you remove waste in a system that runs all day, every day, the results become impossible to ignore. But even that isn't the full picture. Because the real advantage of the Canter 2026 isn't just in the engine. It's in something most people don't even think about: the transmission. Mitsubishi introduced its Duonic dual-clutch system into this truck. And this is where the experience changes completely. Unlike traditional systems, this setup uses two clutches working together. One handles the current gear, while the other is already preparing the next one. So when it's time to shift, it happens instantly. No delay, no hesitation, no wasted movement. The truck just keeps going. And while that might sound like a small detail, it has a huge impact. Smooth gear changes reduce strain on the engine. And when the engine isn't constantly fighting inefficient shifts, it operates more efficiently, which means less fuel is burned. It also means less wear and tear, fewer breakdowns, lower maintenance costs. And when you combine all of that, something interesting starts to happen. This truck doesn't just save fuel. It saves money in multiple ways at once. And that's exactly why companies are starting to look at it differently. Because when a truck runs 400 or 500 kilometers every day, small savings quickly turn into large numbers. Over the course of a year, even a minor improvement in efficiency can lead to thousands of liters of fuel saved. And that translates directly into profit. For large fleets, that's a massive advantage. But for smaller businesses, it can be the difference between staying afloat or falling behind. Which is why trucks like this aren't just vehicles, they're tools for survival. But this raises another important question. If electric trucks are supposed to be the future, why are diesel trucks like this still making such an impact? The answer is more complicated than most people think. Electric trucks are improving fast. There's no doubt about that. But they still face challenges. Range is one of the biggest ones. Many trucking routes require long, uninterrupted travel. And while diesel trucks can handle that easily, electric trucks still struggle to match that level of endurance. Then there's charging time. Refueling a diesel truck takes minutes. Charging an electric truck can take much longer. And in a business where time equals money, that delay matters. There's also infrastructure. Charging stations aren't available everywhere, especially on long routes or in remote areas. So while electric trucks are growing, they're not fully ready to replace diesel in every situation, and that's exactly where trucks like the Canter 2026 come in. They offer something incredibly valuable right now. Improvement without disruption. They don't require new infrastructure. They don't require new systems. They just do the same job, more efficiently. And that makes them extremely attractive to companies that can't afford to experiment. But here's where things start to get even bigger. Because if this truck succeeds the way Mitsubishi expects, it won't just affect one company. It will affect the entire industry. Competitors like Isuzu, Hino, Tata Motors, and Volvo are all watching this space closely. Because if transport companies start choosing more efficient diesel trucks over newer alternatives, those companies will have no choice but to respond. And that could trigger something we haven't seen in a while. A new race, not for electrification, but for efficiency. Better engines, smarter transmissions, more refined diesel technology. And suddenly, diesel doesn't look outdated anymore. It looks optimized. And that leads to a question that most people aren't asking yet. What if the transition to electric takes longer than expected? What if trucks like this quietly extend the life of diesel by making it too efficient to replace right now? Because if companies can save money today, they might not be in a hurry to switch tomorrow. And that possibility changes everything, because it means the future of trucking might not be a straight path. It might be a transition filled with overlap, where electric grows, but diesel refuses to disappear, at least not yet. And right in the middle of that shift sits a truck that most people have almost ignored. The Mitsubishi Fuso Canter 2026. Not loud, not flashy, but quietly doing something that could reshape how the industry moves forward. Because sometimes, the biggest changes don't come from something completely new. They come from something familiar that just got a lot better. And by the time everyone realizes it, it's already changed the game.